Good afternoon to all our viewers. Uh, we will give 2 minutes for our audience to join. So please do bear with us just for 2 minutes. And afterwards, we will start our program. So we'll just give it a minute more, and we will start our program in about a minute. So please do bear with us. A very good afternoon to all our viewers, and welcome again to another segment of Education on Air with Entrepreneur.MD. And as promised, at his last EOA with us, we have Mr. Naren Arulraja, CEO of Eco Marketing, to present another interesting topic, and that is branding, discovering, communicating, and living your brand. Once Naren has completed his presentation, there will be a discussion segment, and I will forward some questions from the audience to him. If you do have any questions, please post them, or on the left-hand side of your screen, there's a Q&A bubble, or some of you might have it at the bottom of your screen, and post your questions so that I will be able to ask the questions from Naren. Hi, Naren, and welcome. It's lovely to have you back with us, Naren. And it's over to you, Naren.
Thank you, Tilini, and I do appreciate the opportunity. Hope you can see my screen. Just for those who have been part of the previous webinars, we had a series of webinars, and it's around 5, and this is the one on branding. So if you have missed those, obviously you can watch it from the website or email us, and we can send you the video. So I hope you benefit from this. Just a couple of minutes on myself. I'm the founder and CEO of Entrepreneur.MD and Equa.com. And so I'm going to kind of share with you my experience having worked with doctors for 7+ years around branding and how you can use branding as a way to differentiate yourself and really, really grow your business. So really, as the title suggests, it's about discovering your brand, communicating your brand, and living your brand. And I'm going to get into why all of these components are really important when we talk about branding. The first point that I want to make is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And this is very, very true in the medical space. And the reason is I have yet to meet a doctor who says, I don't have the state-of-the-art equipment. I have yet to meet a doctor who says, I can't do what pretty much every other doctor does. Right? So pretty much when it comes to the what you do, right, there's not much to differentiate yourself on because you will say pretty much the same things. So I really think if you want to stand out and if you want to have loyal patients who refer their friends and come to you for a long time, you need to really go a bit deep. You need to really look at the why. Why is it that you do that makes you unique? Why is it that the people who come to you keep coming back to you? Really understand that why, and then be able to communicate it and be able to live it. Because just saying it doesn't make it real. I'll give you an example. I used to go to the salon all the time, and once upon a time when the original owner was there, always, he gave everybody there a drink, and he made sure that he massaged your head, and he really had this routine to really make you feel awesome, right? And one day, when I went back, the owner was not there, and it was somebody else, and that person didn't do many of the things the owner did. And all of a sudden, I still was loyal to that, that salon. So obviously I went back and, one more time. But after a couple of times, and I didn't get the same experience I fell in love with, I stopped going there, because really the reason I went there is the experience, because, cutting a hair is cutting your hair. It's not that difficult, at least in my case. So, it didn't matter where I went. I was just looking for that experience, right? Same thing with McDonald's, right? I mean, McDonald's is McDonald's regardless of where you go, whether you are in Russia or whether you are in Chicago or anywhere in the world. Pretty much you will get reasonably priced, or I guess cheap food, really fast, and the place is clean. Yes, it's unhealthy. Yes, it has a lot of the other drawbacks, but the people who are walking in know all of that, and then they're going in for the reasons that makes McDonald's brand unique, right? So it's not really a question of what your brand is. It's a question of, are you consistently, living it? Are you consistently delivering that brand? And so those are the points that I'm going to cover, as we go through the presentation. Most people communicate from the outside in, and I always found that if you are like most people, it's very hard to stand out and really succeed in today's or any business world. So what I mean by that is they start with the what. For example, if Dell was communicating, it say we make computers, right? And then they talk about the how. We make it cheaper than anybody else because our supply chain is really tight. And we always use the state-of-the-art technology. We have this chip inside it, and so forth. Do you want to buy a computer? And it's not that compelling because there's no emotional connection, right? I'll use an example. When Martin Luther King, gave a speech, he didn't give a speech about his plan. He gave a speech about his dream, right? The why, because that's what resonated with people. So people who have never met him, who don't know who he is, white, black, all kinds of colors from all over the country, came up, 250,000. And back then they didn't have, social media and many of the things we have today. So they came for the dream, they came for the why. So as humans, I think we are more drawn to the why more so than the what. Because, we are sick and tired of getting talked about the what. Everybody talks about the what, and it's just so much, I give you 10 things, and, so it's just not a good idea. So I really think communicating from the outside in, starting with the what, is not very effective. So if Apple were to communicate like others, they would say, we make great computers, they are beautifully done, easy to use, always work, do you want to buy one? That's not really how they communicate. And I'm going to show you actually how Apple actually communicates. They communicate from the inside out. They start with the why, then they talk about the how, and then they talk about the what. And so everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. So that's their why, right? I mean, if you think back to their history, when Steve Jobs came back, the very first thing he did is he created this commercial, not just for the public, but for themselves, to really reinforce what Apple is all about. They believe in challenging the status quo. They believe in thinking differently. That's the why. And the how is, the way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, easy to use, and in a way they always work, right? So that's their how. Beautifully designed. I mean, I don't have to tell you that Apple products are beautiful. Their packaging is beautiful. Everything they do about stuff is beautiful. Even their commercials are done elegantly, and their stores are done in a nice fashion, right? So everything is done with a certain sense of design. Then they talk about easy to use, right? I mean, if you think about it, whether you look at Mac, when it first came out, compared to everything else out there, it was very easy to use, right? It was the first one to have a, mouse, for example. Now, let's compare, an iPhone that comes in the mail versus a Samsung or LG phone. Usually, you need a scissors to cut open the other packages. With Apple, you literally have a, like a sticker kind of a thing that just open. The other packages, other products you get, usually you have to charge it, so you need 2 to 3 hours to plug it in. You're all excited, you are just roaring to go, but this thing is not even charged, so you have to wait for several hours. Apple iPhones, they come charged, right? So when we talk about easy to use, it's really easy to use. I mean, I don't know if you saw their commercial where they used to compare a PC and a Mac, and they used to say, when you get a Mac, you just plug it in, it works. When you get a PC, you have to go through lots of setup and installs and, all kinds of stuff. You have to connect the cables. Here, you don't have to connect anything. It just works out of the box. So easy to use is something they do, and it always works, right? I mean, it's the idea that, with PCs, you need big IT departments and support and antivirus and all that stuff. They thought about not having any of that, so they built their software so it doesn't have viruses and so forth. So this is what I mean by living it, right? Anybody can say these things, but if you don't live it, people don't believe you, just like I gave you the salon example. So living is a really, really big part of branding. So just to make a few points, and then finally they say, right, that's their what? We happen to make computers. Do you want to buy one? So the most important point is start with the why, and what is that why for you, and that's something we're going to talk about. Then talk about the how, and then live the how, because if you don't live it, people know it's just lip service and they won't believe you. And then finally, you can sell whatever you want. Today it could be computers for Apple, and later it was music players and music, and now books, and maybe next is payments, and maybe next is watches. Doesn't matter. People don't care because they don't care about the what. They just care about the why and the how. As long as they see eye to eye on the why and the how, they're going to be Apple fans lining up to buy Apple products. So I really think this is a simple idea that all of you can embrace, right? So stop talking about, I have this laser and I have this machine and I have that machine. That's just what everybody else does, right? I'm not saying don't mention it on your website. Do mention it, but that is not your brand. Your brand is something very different. So start with the why, right? So I'll give you an example of my why, for Equa marketing. So sometimes it's very hard to figure this out if you're brand new to business. At least in my case, Equa just something that we didn't really plan on creating. We ended up creating it. And when we entered the market in 2006, 2007 timeframe, there was so many companies, and everybody, and I don't like to follow the herd, they were all about what I call buzzword, companies. So there's a new buzzword called Facebook. So yeah, we do Facebook, and it's $100 a month. And they had all these buzzwords, and they would have a big marketing budget to advertising budget to go to meetings and have booths and whatnot. So that's what they would do. So they would keep doing that again and again and again, and they would get clients, and the clients come for the buzzwords. Yeah, they get Facebook, they get this, they get that, but what the clients don't get is results. So the clients leave, and then they are on to getting the next guys. They get it, so that's why they have 20 sales guys going to meetings year round, and 5 people doing the work because they need to get new clients to fill the clients they lose. So that's their business model, right? So I noticed this, and the argument was, oh, doctors are cheap, so we need to somehow find a way to cut costs, and so it's all about cost. And so they use template stuff, and they use software products as opposed to having real people create things originally, right? And life is a self-fulfilling prophecy, and what they said about doctors is what became true. So they attracted the kind of doctors that always are jumping from one thing to the other, and just going round and round and round, and so their business model worked with those kind of bottom 80% of the doctors. So I realized there's a niche in the top 10%, because what I noticed is, just like any other business, there is the top 10% in medicine. There are some doctors who are so much more successful than everybody else. They are so much more better as clinicians, and also they're so much more successful. So they understand the secret of success. So when I sat and thought about my why, I really wanted to focus on helping those who know how to be successful, be exceptionally successful with internet marketing. And then I realized success is not just a, not just a slogan, it has to be real. So how do you measure success? The beautiful thing about marketing as opposed to, let's say, accounting or many other services is, if you do your job, you should be able to track the results and see the results you produced, right? So it's very trackable. You can count the phone calls, you can, thanks to analytics, look at traffic, you can even analyze the phone calls and say how many new patients you got. So it's extremely trackable. So once I realized my why is helping those who know how to be successful, the top 10%, be extremely successful with marketing, and the way to do that is through results, I built a company all around that why, right? So our how became, building teams of experts, because what I realized is to create results, you can't buy a software or to use templates. You need really good people who know what they're doing, who know how to connect the dots. So building teams of experts became important. That was our how. Another how is focusing on results, so connecting the dots, so investing in things like call tracking, investing in things like, what was I going to say, analytics, investing in roles where people are focused on, looking at numbers and seeing how the numbers are improving and how we can, find low-hanging fruits and do things. We call them marketing coaches. So those became important, right? So really having a team and having a focus around, continually improving results, that was a huge part of our how. Another thing is innovation and keeping up, because Google keeps changing, the world keeps changing. The way people used to do things is no longer the way they do things. I mean, up to 7 years ago, this idea of smartphone was not really a common idea for most people. Now, most of the people use the internet through their smart devices. So all of that keeps changing. So you need to have a team or a focus around, innovation and keeping up, because as consumers change how they behave, if you don't change how you do things, you're not going to reach them, right? So those were our hows. So you need to really think about what is your why and what is your how, right? More so than the what. What to me is material. It could be this laser or this, filler or, acne or whatever it is. But it's really the why and the how that's the most important. And I'm going to get into how you can figure that out. So finding your how. So I really think it's not that hard if you're an existing practice, especially if you are somebody who is already successful. It's very simple as asking your patients. Ask your best patients, why do they keep coming back to you, right? And why they refer their friends to you. So a lot of times, most of them will give you a very consistent answer. One of the clients I have the privilege of working with is, a top doctor, in her field, and so we did the survey, for example, with her clients, and they pretty much said the same things. They said 3 things. Number one, they trust her, right? Trust, again, had 2 parts to that answer. One, they trust her because they felt, even though she has been practicing medicine for a long time, she's always on top of things. She goes to conferences, she speaks at conferences, she really, really knows what's going on. So that's one part of the trust, right? I want somebody who's keeping up. The second part of the trust is the personality. She's a straight shooter. She calls it what it is. So they felt that if she's going to say something, she really means it. It's not something that, she's saying because, she can make more money or this or that. They really trust her, that she would recommend things that she really believes in. So that was the trust part of, why people kept coming back to her. The second thing they kept saying is, customer service. Like she really pays attention to her patients. Her staff pays attention to her patients. Like they are prompt. They when if they're going to be late, they call and let the patients know. So they really treat you like a human being as opposed to just somebody they don't respect, right? So that's the other thing they kept saying. And the third thing they said, actually, that was the number one thing they said is results. So they feel like $1,000,000 after they have seen the doctor and after she has, helped them solve whatever the problem they had. So results is really at the top, right? So so I think obviously you might be, let's say an OBGYN, your how or the things that your patients might care about might be different from this particular doctor who was in the cosmetic space. So regardless of what his space is, you need to figure out what your how is, especially if you're an established business. If you're not an established business, try to look for the how for the ones who are very successful that you want to emulate, and try to make that yours by building those things. So once you know your how, and once you understand your why to me is very personal, right? Like, why did you get into this field in the first place, right? So I mean, obviously most people who are very successful and make a lot of money are successful because they're very passionate about what they do. So that's where the why should come from. Why did you get into this first place? And obviously how is what, like we talked about, right? In this particular doctor's case, it's trust, results, and customer service, treating you like a human being, because a lot of doctors were not treating people the way they were supposed to, and especially when somebody was that good. So it really made a difference in attracting the right kind of clientele for it, right? So once you understand your how by serving your clients, or surveying those successful doctors you want to emulate, then you need to start figuring out how to live it and so forth, and I'll get to that. Now, the what is your services. Could be a laser, or could be a particular service you provide. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. It can change. So I think you need to keep this very short, and because we are bombarded with information. I guess in a 24-hour period, most of us see 50,000 or more pieces of information. I mean, just on driving, you see so much, and so really in that space, to stand out, you need to really think through and come up with a very short why, how, and what. And I think that's really key. So this is what a sample brand that's going to look like. We believe in. What do you believe in, right? In our case, like I talked about for Equa, we believe in helping those who know how to be successful be very successful, or be in the top 10% when it comes to internet marketing, right? That's what we believe in. And how we do it, I shared with you, right? Which is, by building teams and putting a lot of hours, innovating, focusing on results, and so forth, right? And the services, in our case, is SEO and social media and all those things. Obviously, in your case, it could be, if you are a dentist, it could be, cosmetic dentistry, or general dentistry, or all kinds of other things that you might be providing for them, right? So obviously you can even list it like each services. So I really think it's really worth the time to think about this. And if you want some help on this, I can either through email or through a chat, kind of help you think about this. So we kind of talked about what do clients expect from a doctor. I shared with you the example of one of my clients. And then now that you've discovered your brand, or you know what your brand is, now it's a matter of communicating it again and again and again. And this is really important. Your website should say the same thing. Your receptionist should say the same thing. You should say the same thing. Your other doctors, if you have more than one, should say the same thing, because you want to reinforce that brand. You want to make them realize why they came to you in the first place. And it's really important, consistency important. If your website says one thing and your receptionist says something else, people are going to get disillusioned, right? So it's really, consistency is important. Everything has to connect. So communicating your brand is really important. So how do you communicate it through your website? And we'll get into that in a bit. So I really think you should have a page that really summarizes who you are, right? In the form of why, how, and what, in a paragraph, 2 to 3 sentences, and I think that's very powerful. And we talked about how to tell the story, and I'm going to just jump to website slide, because it's going to talk about how do you tell a story using websites. So you can use testimonials, for example, because a testimonial can highlight those points that the patient said, the reason why they keep coming to you and referring their friends, right? So you can have video testimonials, you can have written testimonials. Obviously, if the patients are friendly and they totally believe in those things about you, then have them highlighted with examples. If they talk about results, if they are willing to have them share the results, and kind of talk about the emotional side of it, because that's much more powerful in telling a story as opposed to you saying it. even written testimonials, right? Like obviously results can also be highlighted through before and after pictures, because a lot of people would look at before and after pictures if results is very important to them. And if you can really showcase how you have changed somebody's life, I think that would go a long way. And also you have to keep reminding them, right? So, so for example, if you have social media or newsletters, once in a while just include a testimonial, a video testimonial that reinforces that message. So that's one way to remind them. You can do that through Facebook, you can do that through Twitter, and you can do that through newsletters. So when we work with clients, these are some of the things that we typically look at and work on, because marketing is about connecting the dots. Third-party review sites, right? So there are a lot of review sites that people look at. I mean, I know this for a fact. Some of my clients are searched hundreds of times a month. So at the last decision point, people would type your name in or your practice name in and see what other people have to say. Nobody today, at least 9 out of 10, are not going to come to you unless they're sure that the other people think highly of you. So they're going to type your name in, and all these review sites are going to pop up. So obviously there's another discussion and another topic around reputation management and how do you manage your reputation online and so forth. The only point that I'm going to make as part of the branding presentation is the reviews should hopefully be in line with your brand. If it's about results, hopefully some of the reviews talk about results. Whatever your brand is. If it's about a lot of people are afraid, let's say, go to dentist, and you make them feel really comfortable, and you really have solutions where they don't have to deal with pain as much. Hopefully the reviews will talk about that. So these are some things you need to be cognizant of from a branding point of view. What do these reviews say? And encourage people who are happy with you to talk about those things if and when they're willing to write a review for you. Customer success stories, right? I know some people have done case studies, and so it's like a mini video that talks about the before, after, and how this changed the person's life. So again, those are things I think that are very powerful. We touched on monthly newsletters. Again, your newsletters has to be about them, right? Even your social media has to be about them. So it has to be helping them, giving them tips, giving them ideas, anything to help them or engage them. But once in a while, you can embed a video or a story about your happy patient, and that works, right? So as long as it's 80% about helping them and 20% about you, I think people are okay with it. But if it's all about you, then I think people kind of tune it out, because nobody cares about you; they care about themselves. That's just human nature, right? So, so educational content distributed via social media, website, and newsletters. Living your brand. So how do you live your brand? And this is a question I get asked a lot. It's not that complicated, right? Like with call tracking. So we recommend call tracking, and most of our clients have it. So obviously you can record the calls, and you can randomly listen to calls. And in our case, we would even, with your permission, listen to calls and share some feedback on how the calls can be handled more consistently, in a better way. So, for example, the way the phone calls are handled, is it consistent with your brand? That's one way to find out. And also survey your clients, like those surveys. Why do you keep coming back to us? Another question I like to ask is something called NPS, and I'm going to touch on that, later on in one of the slides. It's a way to continually improve your practice based on what clients care about. So, there are a lot of ways for you to kind of keep your ears to the ground, so to speak, whether it's listening to the calls or doing surveys with clients. And then based on the feedback, take action, do something about it. Because if you don't, you can't live it. And you can't just say, oh yeah, everything is great. I see this a lot from my clients. They will say, oh, we never miss a single phone call. But sometimes the same person who said we never miss a single phone call is surprised to see 30% of the phone calls don't get answered. So one of the lessons I learned as an entrepreneur who built a business from, I guess, into a 150-person company is that people respect what you inspect. So you have to, once in a while, just check on things. You have to kind of look at things. So it really is a good idea to just not assume everything is great. It's a good idea to check it, because you're not just checking on people, you're trying to continually improve, right? So your definition of success 3 years ago might not be the same as it is today. And the same thing with consumers. As there's more competition and as everybody else ups the game, what was good enough 3 years ago may not be good enough right now. So results might still mean results, but the bar has gone up in terms of what is good results today versus 3 years ago, right? So you need to kind of constantly use it as a tool to also improve your practice. So let me touch on this thing called Net Promoter Score. It's a great way to find out what people think of you. It was invented by or created by two people, I think, from the big five consulting firms, and then I think there was an article published on Harvard Business Review in 2000 or 2000, or like early 2000s, and then it really took off, and every company under the sun, from Apple to every big brand that I know of, use it. It's a very simple idea. The idea is that traditional surveys put words in the client's mouth and are too long, and nobody takes the time to fill it. So this is a very simple question. Actually, it's two questions. The first question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you will tell your friends about us, where do we stand? And if somebody gives you a 9 or a 10, that means they are a promoter. They love you. They will sing your praises to the whole world, right? They are your fans. Somebody gives you anything less than a 6, they are a detractor. The only reason they're staying with you is because they haven't had the time to find somebody else to go with. So they don't really like you. They're always trying to find fault and things like that. For whatever reason, maybe you tick them off. Maybe you didn't provide great service, or maybe because they're not a good fit. Now let me talk about good fit. Let's say you are a very busy practice, and there's a patient of yours who likes to come and talk for 45 minutes and really have a leisurely conversation with the doctor. That person is not a good fit for your practice. So they will feel like you are a 6 because what they're looking for is not something you can give them. So in those cases, it's much better to have a very direct conversation with the patient and say, this is not a good fit. We unfortunately can't give you what you're looking for. There's nothing wrong with what you're looking for. It's just that we can't give that to you, right? So sometimes when you get somebody low score, it just might not be a good fit. Or sometimes somebody dropped the ball. Maybe an employee who was having a bad day was a bit, I don't know, was not really pleasant to, be around that day, and that person was irritated because of it, right? So the purpose of the NPS survey is to find out these things and then fix it. So ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, where do we stand? And then the second question is, explain your score. So when they tell you why, that's powerful. If they give you a 10, tell them why they give you a 10. That's the reason they love you, right? So obviously you need to do more of it, assuming it's common across most of your clients. If they give you a 6, find out why. And if it's not a good fit, get rid of them. But if it is a good fit, but you drop the ball, say sorry, do whatever you have to fix the situation. Because in today's world, that unhappy client, if you don't listen to them, are more than likely to go and badmouth you on 3 different review sites. So it's better to kind of be proactive than try to fix it after the fact. And I do have a separate presentation on reputation management, so we'll get into that when we get there. So what do you do with your promoters? Promoters are your fans, right? Ask them for testimonials. Ask them for, they will help you. They want you to succeed. They really like you. Maybe they will even tell their friends, just nudge them. Or like I have heard two sides to this. Some doctors I've heard say, I never ask people for referrals because if we treat them like family and we do a good job, so they will automatically refer. Then I've said, I'll say, just remind them. So the way to remind them is just to be in touch, right? So, like for example, when we work with clients, we do monthly newsletters, weekly posts on social media, so you can always stay in touch. Call tracking, that's another important thing, as a way to kind of keep track of what's going on and really know whether something is working or not. And once you learn things, like let's say you're missing calls, fix it. Sometimes it might be a coaching issue, right? Maybe the way the phone is answered, maybe people are not properly trained. Train them, and then see if when you track it again, if things are improving. So even an hour a week can make a big difference. Discover, communicate, and live your brand. So we talked about this. So really, to summarize, branding is about first finding your brand, and sometimes it's soul searching with regards to why. and how it's really understanding why your best patients love you. And then it's about communicating it. And we talked about testimonials and websites and newsletters and social media and really communicating it, even review sites to tell that story. And living it, right? That's where NPS comes in, where you can survey people and really find out what people really think and why. You can ask you can track your calls and see how the calls are being handled. You can do ongoing training sessions around your brand and are people living it. So just paying attention to it once a week or once a month gets everybody aligned. These are simple things that you can do that will have a huge impact. I've had clients whose business have gone up by more than $1 million a year, right? So, and it didn't happen because we were brilliant or we had some magic idea. It just happened because we just stayed with it and we just can continuously improve on every front, not just branding, but search engine optimization, so more and more people found them, and reputation management and all of those things, right? So anyway, so I'm hoping to see you in one of the upcoming presentations. So the next one is going to be on reputation management and social media. So I would look forward to seeing you there, and we would send you a video of this one as well, so in case you want to watch it again. And the one after that will be on automated marketing, content marketing, and analytics. This is where connecting the dots become important. How do you grow your practice by, let's say, $1 million in a 3-4 year period? You have to connect the dots. You have to continually improve. Automated marketing, right? Because a lot of times you're dealing with tens of thousands of people, and you need tools to kind of nurture those relationships and build those relationships with patients. Content marketing, right? We live in a world where it's all about content. An article can be used in social media, used for SEO. So again, we'll touch on how we do that for our clients. Q&A, this is the section where we can talk about questions and answers. Tilini, do you have any questions? And by the way, if you want us to evaluate your marketing and give you some pointers as to how you can improve, typically, we charge $500. We'll do it at no cost. You can email our team or email me. My email and my phone number is here, and we will, analyze your complete marketing and tell you where you are today and where you think you can go and what you need to do to get there. So, it's a pretty awesome thing, and knowledge is power. So I would take advantage of it if you feel like you want to take your marketing to the next level. So questions and answers. Let's go to that. And Tilni, do you have any questions from our audience so far?
Yes, thank you, Naren, and that was very informative. And let's move on to the questions that we have received today. Okay, I will give you the first question. How can I use social media to promote my brand? Does advertising online really work?
How can I use social media to promote my brand? Does advertising really work? Well, social media is a way to keep in touch with your existing clients. It's like the telephone, just a way to keep in touch. And the beautiful thing about social media is you don't have to make 100 phone calls. You can just post something once, and all your fans, typically many of them hopefully are your patients, will see it. And if you're engaging, then they're going to like it or share it, and their friends are going to see it, right? So I don't think you can communicate your brand directly through social media, but once in a while, you can share a video testimonial or something, and that can reinforce your brand. So I really don't think, having done this and worked with clients who have grown their businesses significantly, I don't think social media makes somebody rich, because it's not going to drive brand new patients. What is going to drive brand new patients is search engine optimization, where you show up for hundreds and hundreds of keywords, and that turns into tons of calls, right? So, but when it comes to growing your goodwill and getting word of mouth out there and getting referrals going, social media is useful.
Okay, let's move on to the second question. Yes, yeah. Naren, you wanted to add something?
No, go ahead, sorry.
Okay. Is it okay to change my old logo? And what is the best way to get around it?
Yeah, I think I'm one of those people, I really believe in priorities, right? So I think there's always something that's more important than something else. So I think that's the way you should look at it. I mean, changing a logo just for the sake of changing it is meaningless. But if you feel like your entire brand is wrong and something has to be done, and as part of that you're changing your logo, I think might be worth it, right? So one of the sayings I always remember is even bad marketing done consistently is better than good marketing that's not consistent, right? So um, yeah, so I would look at it carefully and I would really understand the reasons why, and then I would only do it if it makes sense in the grander, in the larger context of things. I wouldn't just do it for the sake of doing it or just because somebody said, oh, your logo is ugly, or whatever the case might be.
Okay, let's move on to the next question that we have got. What should be my short-term and long-term goals in building a brand?
Yeah, I really think the short-term goal is to discover it, making sure you got it right. Because if you don't get it right, you're going to be not successful. And I think the long-term goal is to live it, communicate it, and then watch how well you're doing and then improve it on an ongoing basis, right? I mean, so really the entire presentation is all about this question. It's first, how do you discover it? How do you find out what your brand is, your why, your how, and figuring out how to communicate it effectively, like, just getting it into that two sentences. And then finally, it's about living it, right? And communicating it.
Okay, move
Yeah.
on to the fourth question. Does it really matter how our patients see us, and anyway, our patients are still coming to us for our services?
Come again, can you repeat that question, please?
Does it really matter how our patients see us? Um, does it really matter how our patients see us? And anyway, our patients still come to us for our services.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent question, right? I do think we live in a world where competition is only increasing and people are working smarter, not harder. So if you, so let's assume you have a pretty bad brand out there. People think, you don't respect patients or you do bad work or whatever it is. In today's world, that can spread really fast, because they can go and write bad things about you. And, most people believe what's on the net more than they believe their own parents because they think as a group, the group knows better than an individual, right? So I do think a bad brand today can hurt somebody really fast than it ever used to be able to, right? In the old days, in the yellow page days, 20 years ago, you couldn't find out anything about a doctor. So I do think kind of really thinking about your brand, what do you want people to think of you, and then actually cultivating it by working on it, just like exercise or health or whatever else you set as a goal, I think is important. So, I mean, maybe you don't have a problem just yet because your business practice is so big you don't notice it, but eventually somebody else is going to, have a brand that's more compelling, and these patients are going to walk. So I would really be careful, and I would really not think that way because I think in today's day and age, it's really, really important for you to be aware of your brand and kind of build it. You have to work on it. I mean, and also as an entrepreneur who has built businesses from nothing and done it a few times, I think this is about working smart, right? The amount of time you would spend on something like this would pay off 100 times over for years and years and years to come. Because, like, I mean, like certain brands like Apple, people line up, 10 million people line up without even knowing or without even seeing the product ever, right? So why is that? Because the brand, because people trust the brand, people really identify with it. So I really think the brand itself can be hugely valuable. So even if you are going to sell your business or whatever it is, that brand that you're building could be worth a lot of money to you. In terms of real dollars, that is your wealth, right? So I do think it's important. Absolutely.
Okay, we'll move with our fifth question that we have received today. We have been in business for many years now and not really thought of building a brand as such. Where do I stand?
You mean where do I start?
I'm sorry?
Did you say where do I start or where do I
Where
stand?
do I stand? Sorry, where do I start? I'm sorry, yes. Where do I start?
Where do I start? Okay. Yeah, I think first thing I would do is send out a survey of, you said you have been in business for a long time. Send out a survey of your best clients. Just try to pick a variety, young, old, different types of clients because, any practice might have, different types. Some might be more into the medical side, some might be into cosmetic, whatever it is, right? So really get a full sample of your clients, send out a survey, and the survey should be a single question. And a lot of times it's better to do it in person when they're in the office and you could record the answers, in some type of a device. Why do you keep coming back to us? And why do you keep telling your friends about us, right? Or why do you keep coming back to us? And they will tell you point blank, and just record their answers and do 20 of these. And then try to listen to them and analyze them, and you will see some common threads. That's your brand. So now that you know your brand, then figure out a way to kind of communicate it and put it on your website, at least in a paragraph format, so everybody at least gets it. And once you get it, then I think you should focus on living it, like I talked about. Again, it's not a big deal. You just start by, doing some training with some of your staff and looking at your website and asking the question, are we communicating our brand properly? If somebody didn't know us and they're just finding us online, are we telling a good story, right? So start off by just doing a video explaining who you are, right? And then later on, if there are other people like your patients, especially the ones who participate in your surveys, your best clients, have them do a small testimonial for you if they're willing, right? So, and some might be only willing to do a voice because they don't want their face to show, and other people might be willing to do a video, and some might just do a text, right? So you just start telling that story, right? That's the communicating part. So I think it just small bites. Just set some monthly goals and just one chunk at a time. And it's not a lot of work. I'm talking about. It's just a little bit of really high value stuff. And then once it's up and running and you have updated your website and your staff is decently trained and everybody's communicating it consistently, then just watch yourself, like do things like NPS surveys, right? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you love us, and tell your friends where you stand and why, right? Or listening to calls, and that might require some technologies and tools, but there are a lot of them out there, and we also provide that. So anyway, so it's not that hard. Just get in there and just start doing it. Allocate, let's say, 2 to 3 hours a week, maybe even 1 hour a week to start. And if you do it consistently week after week, you would make progress. And again, like anything else, it's about leadership. So if you, as the owner of the practice, takes leadership on it, this will start working.
Okay. We have one more question.
Yeah.
I have heard that a brand once built will need to be maintained, and that it is dynamic. How do I maintain my brand and keep it above the competitors?
Yeah, I think like we talked about, pay attention to it. Just listen to the calls, do training, do the NPS surveys, and listen to what people are saying, right? And when you see the data points, make sure that your office manager is working on it, and then make sure you guys talk about it in your weekly or monthly, team meetings, so everybody's paying attention to it. Sometimes even incentivize people for, like, for example, if your NPS score improves, give a small bonus to the team. In other words, if the number of promoters you have grows compared to detractors, that's a good thing. Your brand is shifting. You have more people who are your fans, which means you're going to get more business. So there's a lot of things you can do. And as always, feel free to email me with any questions or any practical things you have, and I would love to answer it.
Yes. Thank you, Naren. Thank you for your time spent with us. And we will have to say goodbye to you. And thank you for all our viewers for joining with us on this EOA. We will be sending this video for you so that you can share with your friends. And we will also keep you informed of the next webinar within a few weeks. And as Naren said, his next webinar would be on reputation management and social media.
Thank you very much, Tilani, and thank you everyone for taking the time to attend this webinar.
Yes, thank you very much and have a very good day and bye bye from us.
Bye for now.